until the lawyer call you. Okay, thank you.
Hello, dengan izin Puan Koroner, kes 65A103/2020 Nora and Quoirin.
Puan Hafizah, siapa yang DPP? Siapa apa ni? Assisting Officer of the day. Puan Hafizah?
Hello, Puan Fiza. Kes
Amirul, you dah test audio ke dengan DPP ni?
Hello. Hello, Puan Hafizah.
Puan Hafizah? Siapa yang akan conduct? Ataupun apa ni?
Video ah. Okey, saya.
Alright. Okey, teruskan.
Sekejap Puan. Sekejap Puan. Situ tak boleh?
Boleh kat sini je.
Oh, okey. Ya. Dengan izin Puan, Timbalan Pendakwa Raya Ahmad Sazali Omar, Pegawai Pengendali. Sama-sama saya Puan Hafizah Harun, Puan Noratikah dan Puan Nuralis. Dan bagi pihak keluarga si mati, Cik Liz Azmi, Timbalan Pendakwa Raya Ahmad Sazali Omar, Cik Alif Benjamin bagi pihak dusun. Sama-sama saya Puan Boleh dengar suara saya ni?
Puan tak on DJ. Puan tak on mic. Puan nak cakap semua.
Tak, dia cakap tadi, lepas tu dia tengok tadi. Okey, terus apa ni? Okey, Tuan.
Boleh dengar tak suara saya?
Okey, dengar. Jelas.
Okey. Puan, hari ini takkan untuk sambung inquest pun untuk manggil saksi yang seterusnya, iaitu Dr. Natalia Roger Black Carey.
Okay, sebelum tu, okay, before that, we have our interpreter, okay, Mr. Sam. So before we begin, I would like to invite Mr. Sam to take his oath. Okay, please.
One, your condition one. I, Chu Kaiman, IC number 800516105213, do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that I will interpret all the evidence in this case without fear or favor from British English into Malaysian English and vice versa, as the case may require. My ability.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sam. Okay, Tuan.
Yeah.
Okay, we have here today Dr. Carey. Okay,
Yeah.
from
Carry.
Dr. Carey. All right. Okay, you may proceed. This Dr. Carey is an pathologist engaged by family. All right. Am I right, Mr. Sakti, Miss Louise? Okay. So, Tuan, do you want to begin the Q&A session?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Puan Koroner, has the witness been sworn?
I just want to confirm whether my DPP will proceed.
Understood.
Will begin the session.
Understood.
Okay. All right. Okay, Dr. Carey, apa ni Aisyah, please.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Carey.
Yep.
Can you
Good
hear
morning.
me? All right, good morning.
Yes,
You can proceed with the oath now.
Yep, certainly. I, Nathaniel Roger Blair Carey, do solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Dr. Carey, what is your age now?
My age is 63 years.
Could you please tell to the court what is your address, your residence address?
Yes, I work from a group of pathologists, and the official address is called Aspect House, Grove Business Park, Wantage in Oxfordshire.
What is your current designation?
I'm a consultant forensic pathologist, and in that capacity, I'm on what is called the Home Office Register of England and Wales.
All right, thank you so much for the information.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Carey, do you hear me?
Yes, I do. Very well. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm Ahmad Sazali. My name is Ahmad Sazali. I'm the Deputy Public Prosecutor handling this inquiry. I have a few questions to you. Before that, for the purpose of this inquiry, did you prepare any statement and send it to your lawyer, to the parties? Did you prepare any witness statement of a witness?
Yes, I have a statement that was made on the 21st of July 2020.
You have the statement with you now?
Yes, I do.
Could you please read your statement of witness?
Sure. Do you want me to start at the beginning with all the declarations?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This statement, consisting of 6 pages signed by me, is true to the best of my knowledge and belief. I make it knowing that, if it is tendered in evidence, I shall be liable to prosecution if I have willfully stated in it anything which I know to be false or do not believe to be true. Qualifications and Experience. I hold degrees of Master of Arts, Doctor of Medicine, Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery. I'm a Fellow of the Royal College of Pathologists, and I hold the qualification of Diploma in Medical Jurisprudence in Pathology. I've been a Home Office registered consultant forensic pathologist for 27 years, and that's now 28 years, and currently practice as a full-time consultant forensic pathologist within a practice of 7 partners. My ongoing experience includes the full range of general forensic pathology. I have particular expertise in heart pathology, having specialised in this field for nearly 10 years at Papworth Hospital in Cambridgeshire in the past. I also have wide experience of cases of death in custody, including during restraint. I'm an examiner for Society of Apothecaries and the Royal College of Pathologists. I'm currently involved in teaching a variety of institutions. I lecture both senior and junior police officers regarding scene examination and about forensic pathology in broad terms. I participate in seminars associated with my specialty. There's then a declaration. I understand that I owe an overriding duty to the court to provide independent assistance to the court by way of unbiased opinion in relation to matters within my expertise, and that such advice must be uninfluenced by the exigencies of the case. I have complied with and will continue to comply with my duty to the court. Heading, Post-Mortem Report, Coroner's Special Examination. And I should say that my understanding is that I've been called to these proceedings by the family's representatives. However, this report was actually made to the coroner, the senior coroner for Westminster. So it was under the jurisdiction of the coroner rather than, for instance, an examination on behalf of the family.
Yes, understand.
Thank you. Name of deceased, Nora Ann Quoirin. Date of birth, 31/5/2004. Date, time and place found dead, 13/8/2019, around 1:57 p.m. Harm Plantation, near Dusun Resort, Pantai. Date, time and place of examination, 28/8/2019, between 12:53 hours and 14:35 hours at Westminster Public Mortuary. Identified by undertaker's labelling. Permission for post-mortem by Professor Fiona Wilcox, Her Majesty's Senior Coroner for London Inner West. Circumstances of case. Found dead on the 13th of August 2019 in an area described as a palm oil plantation area, Pantai Hill, Pantai, Negeri Sembilan, Malaysia. I'm initially provided with very limited information, which includes repatriation paperwork. The cause of death is given as upper gastrointestinal bleeding due to duodenal ulcer complicated with perforation. The certifier of the cause of death is Dr. Su Shu Feng. The circumstances recorded are that this 15-year-old girl was on holiday in Malaysia with her parents and siblings when she went missing. A search was mounted and her body was found in the jungle some days later. According to newspaper reports, the deceased suffered from holoprosencephaly. Post-mortem examination. The post-mortem examination took place at 12:53 hours on the 28th of August 2019 at Westminster Public Mortuary. Persons present at the post-mortem: Dr. Phil Marsden, Forensic Odontology, Dr. Max Lekniazi. Dr. Marsden took photographs of positive and negative findings under my direction. This was an unusual feature, but the forensic odontologist happened to have a digital camera, and that's why that procedure was adopted. External appearance. The body is received inside a white plastic zip-up body bag. Within this, there is a clear polythene bag which has been partially opened. Beneath this, she is dressed in a white fabric shroud. The plastic is sealed with a handwritten label at one end stating Roland Brothers, CRO 2HR. Within the fabric shroud, the deceased is wrapped in a second shroud, and beneath this, she's wrapped in clear plastic sheeting. This is the body of a severely decomposed female child. Height is recorded as 152 centimeters, weight 28 kilograms, body mass index 12. The head hair, which is dark, measures up to about 40 centimeters long. It is largely detached over the top and sides of the head. The facial features are a mixture of green and pale brown. The green is mainly seen surrounding the nose and the eyes, which appear to have completely decomposed. The skin of the chest and abdomen are a mixture of white, pale brown, and green. There is some breast development, and there is also some pubic hair present. The external genitalia are decomposing, with a few maggots present. The anus is decomposing. The fingernails appear to have come out. The thighs show conspicuous marbling, a mixture of dark brown and yellowish brown in colour. There is a standard sutured incision across the top of the head, passing down behind the ears to join a bib-type incision, which is then in continuity with a midline incision running down to the pubis. Here is a sutured incision running in the midline of the back, which continues as a T-shape on the upper back. Further sutured incisions are present running from the tops of the shoulders, down the outer aspect of the arms and forearms, and onto the backs of the hands, and down the backs of the thighs, the backs of the calves, and onto the soles of the feet. Marks of old injury, none apparent, but there may be obscuring. Marks of recent injury. The decomposing skin of the face, the head, and the neck shows no evidence of any obvious superimposed wounding. There are no obvious major areas of bruising over the front or back of the trunk or to the upper limbs, including no bruising to the inner upper arms. There are superficial longitudinal and oblique scratches over the front of the right thigh, which appear to be crisscrossing. There are superficial abrasions over the front of the right shin, over the top of the left foot, and to a lesser extent over the top of the right foot. The skin of the soles of the feet has extensively slipped. However, there appear to be superimposed superficial scratches at multiple orientations. Internal examination. Initial actions. The first post-mortem sutures are undone and the whole of the subcutis is exposed. This reveals no convincing evidence of any subcutaneous bruising. In particular, there is no evidence of any bruising to the forearms, the backs of the hands, and the inner upper arms. The internal organs are loosely contained within the thoraco-abdominal cavity. The following is observed. Cardiovascular system. The heart has been extensively dissected. There are no obvious abnormalities of the valves or the section myocardium. There are normally disposed coronary arteries, thin-walled, with no evidence of any stenosis. The aorta and other large arteries have been opened and are normally formed and healthy. Normal opened vena cava. Respiratory system. The larynx appears to have been dissected with separation of the strap muscles. Although these show some autolytic staining, there is no obvious discrete bruising. The thyroid cartilages and hyoid bone have been completely separated, and there is no evidence of any laryngeal fracture, no obvious abnormality of residual lung tissue. Alimentary system. The lips are uninjured. For fine, this has been sectioned and shows no obvious abnormality, with a smooth cortex from which the capsule has been stripped. It is of an adequate thickness. The previously opened bladder appears normal. The previously opened uterus in continuity with the upper vagina appears normal. The endometrium is autolyzed. Some further dissection is carried out to the external genitalia around the labia majora, and this shows normal subcutaneous fat and no evidence of any injury. The labia minora and the introitus are decomposing and maggot infested. However, the vagina is present, attached to the uterus, and shows no abnormality. Musculoskeletal system. The face has been thoroughly dissected previously. Examination reveals no evidence of any facial fracture and no evidence of any subcutaneous bruising of the facial tissues. There is maggot infestation of the mouth. However, although there are some defects of the lower lip in association with this, there is no convincing evidence of any laceration. There is no evidence of any recent dental trauma. Decomposing globes are incised and show some residual vitreous humor. The section of the residual neck tissues shows no abnormality. The ribs are separated and show no evidence of any old or recent rib fractures. The sternal plate has been removed, and there is an incision centrally in the sternum involving the third, fourth, and fifth costal cartilages on either side, with absence of part of the sternum. Central nervous system. The incisions in relation to the scalp are opened, and this reveals no evidence of any vault or skull fracture. The dura has been stripped. The brain is present amongst the internal organs contained within a theatre cap or similar. This is semi-solid grey and decomposing, but shows no evidence of any accompanying hemorrhage. The post-mortem examination finished at 14:35 hours. Organ weights, please refer to the first post-mortem report. Retentions for histology, none retained. Conclusions. 1. On the basis of the findings in relation to the internal organs, there is no evidence of any underlying natural disease that caused or contributed to death. The internal organs were unsuitable for histological analysis due to the degree of decomposition. However, the naked eye appearances appeared to be normal. It is noted that the deceased apparently suffered from an underlying disorder, namely holoprosencephaly. Excuse me. Number 2, I've seen a copy of the post-mortem report from Malaysia. dated relating to the joint post-mortem examination made by Dr. Su Shu Feng and Dr. Hanif, dated 5th of the 2nd, 2020. It's apparent that there has been a thorough examination with both histological examination and toxicological analysis. This report describes the findings on dissection of the subcutaneous tissues with an absence of any injuries of assault or restraint. It also confirms an absence of any underlying natural disease. Whilst it was not possible at my examination to confirm the cause of death recorded in Malaysia because the duodenum had either become autolyzed or has actually been retained in Malaysia for microscopic analysis, I'm satisfied that there was evidence of duodenal ulceration, perforation and hemorrhage on the basis of the detailed descriptions provided. At my examination, it was possible to confirm the presence of hemorrhage into the intestines on the basis of the presence of altered blood in the small and large intestines and the rectum. 3. In my opinion, duodenal ulceration, perforation and hemorrhage, which was the principal underlying cause of death, has developed as a result of starvation and physiological stress. There's no convincing evidence of sunburn, although there may have been some obscuring. However, had the deceased been confined to areas beneath the jungle canopy, then sunburn would not necessarily be expected. There may have been a contribution to death as a result of heat stroke, dehydration, and ketosis. I understand in holoprosencephaly there may be some sensitivity to dehydration with underlying derangement of sodium metabolism, and this could have made the deceased more vulnerable. On the basis of the extent of subcutaneous dissection and the descriptions contained within the Malaysian post-mortem report, there's been a thorough assessment for significant injuries, and in my opinion, there is no evidence of any injuries of assault or restraint. However, subtle injuries could be occluded by the degree of decomposition. Scratches on the lower limbs are consistent with moving through undergrowth, as are scratches on the bottoms of the feet. However, the preservation in both areas is poor. The genitalia were decomposed at my examination in relation to the vulva, making exclusion of sexual assault not possible. However, my further dissection of the labia majora did not show any evidence of bruising at all, and the subcutaneous tissues were well preserved. Furthermore, the negative findings described within the Malaysian post-mortem report are noted, as well as negative forensic findings in relation to possible third-party assault. 6. I note that there has been toxicological examination of body fluids and tissues in Malaysia, and that all findings were negative. I've seen a copy of a toxicology report from Imperial College dated 27th of the 11th, 2019, concerning hair analysis from a sample taken at my examination. It is noted that no drugs of abuse were detected in the hair. However, it is further noted that drugs ingested in the 5 to 10 day period prior to death may not be present in a cut hair sample. 7. I'm unable to comment on how long the deceased may have been alive before being found dead on the basis of my examination. However, those performing the examination locally would be better placed, and I see no reason to dispute the suggestion from entomological analysis of maggots that death occurred at least 4 days prior to the maggot sample being retained. From the point of view of this examination, the cause of death is unascertained. However, if the cause of death from the Malaysian post-mortem examination is adopted, and I see no reason why it should not be, then the cause of death may be recorded as cause of death 1A, upper gastrointestinal bleeding due to duodenal ulcers complicated with perforation. And that's signed by me.
Dr. Kerry, you said that the post-mortem examination took place on the 20th of August 2019, right?
Yes.
That means that it was done 15 days after the body of Nora was found?
Yes,
correct?
absolutely. Yes.
In your statement of witness, you said that you have seen the post-mortem report from Malaysia. When did you actually read the report?
Some considerable time later, because there was a delay in obtaining it. So probably weeks to months later.
When you perform the post-mortem examination, the post-mortem report from Malaysia is not ready yet. Is that correct? Full report.
That's correct. Yes, and that's not uncommon in the United Kingdom, that the pathologist would need to take account of all the various findings and then put them together in a report.
Yeah. Regarding the examination on the genitalia, in your statement, you said that the genitalia was decomposed, but then you said your further examination on the labia majora did not show any evidence of bruising at all, and the subcutaneous tissue were well preserved. Based on your examination on the labia majora and the negative findings described in the Malaysian post-mortem report, do you agree that there is no positive forensic finding as regard to the positive sexual assault on Nora and by the third party?
Yes, I'm unable to exclude it from my examination alone, but if one adopts the Malaysian pathologist's report, and in my opinion, the examination had been very thorough, then I agree that there's been no positive evidence.
Yeah, Dr. Kelly, on the cause of death, although you said that based on your examination, the cause of death is unascertained, but you agree with the cause of death stated in the Malaysia post-mortem report that the cause of death was upper gastrointestinal bleeding due to duodenal ulcer complicated with perforation, and you have got it in your report. Is it correct?
Yes, and it seems reasonable, and it was well argued in the conclusions.
You adopted the cause of death. The cause of death stated in the Malaysian post-mortem report because you have no reason why you should not agree with it. Correct?
That's correct.
Puan, itu saja soalan daripada saya buat masa ini, dan kemungkinan kalau ada soalan-soalan lain saya akan kemukakan kemudian selepas peguam-peguam. That's all from me, Dr. Kerry.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Tuan Sazali. Okay, Luis Azmi.
Yes, thank you, Puan. One or two questions, please, Dr. Carey, on behalf of the family.
Of course.
Just to revisit the issue that Mr. Sazali raised regarding the question of sexual assault. You, of course, by the time you examined Nora, the body had undergone a number of changes and there was significant decomposition.
Yes.
Which made your assessment regarding this issue somewhat difficult to do independently.
Yes.
However, as you've said, from the findings of the Malaysian pathologist, the hymen was intact.
Yes.
So from that, can we assume that there was no rape?
Yes. I mean, in terms of attacks on children, you may see very little in the way of positive findings, but there may, for instance, have been limited digital penetration without causing injury.
So, Dr. Carey,
it does depend on the legal definition of rape.
Yes.
Which could include digital penetration in some jurisdictions.
So, Dr. Carey, can we settle on this, that whilst there was no positive findings from either you or the Malaysian pathologist in terms of sexual assault, of course, as you've said, sexual assault can take many different forms.
Yes.
Some may leave marks on the body, some may well not do so.
Yes.
And particularly where a victim might have been very vulnerable or very compliant, it would be unlikely to find marks such as grip marks or defensive injuries on a body.
That's true, yes.
So although there's no positive evidence of sexual assault, we cannot discount that something of that nature may have occurred before Nora came about her death.
That's true, and equally important as any forensic scientific evidence, so looking for semen traces or looking for stranger DNA. Now, of course, the difficulty here is that because of the decomposition, the forensic scientific evidence would be disadvantaged to an extent.
And Dr. Carey, further, we know from where Nora was found that she would have been laying in a stream for some days, at least 3 based on yours findings and the Malaysian pathologist's findings in relation to time of death.
Yeah, exactly.
Her hands and feet immersed in water.
Yes.
So any potential to find third-party DNA under her fingernails, for instance, that would obviously be rendered very difficult, bearing in mind her fingers had been submerged in water for 3 days.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
And similarly, other forensic findings, such as potentially the transference of hair from a potential attacker to Nora, that could have been washed away in the stream or just by virtue of being open to the elements for a number of days.
Yes, that's right.
Moving on, Doctor, just to consider a little further about perhaps the days leading up to Noran's death. Puan, I would like, if I may, to refer to the Peta Pencarian, which I believe is Exhibit EI-14.
Okay, Amirul, please share.
Encik Amirul, if we could begin, please, on the 8th of August. 8 hari bulan. Thank you. Dr. Carey, just to explain what we have here, this is a map of the search area. Nora was, I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but the witnesses have given evidence that the location of Nora's body was roughly at LA of the word Ladang, if you're able to see that, Doctor.
Okay, yes.
In zone 6. So each of these squares on the map represents a 1 kilometer search area. And we know that on, the day before, please, 7 hari bulan. On the 7th of August, there was a search team there in zone 6. So on that day, all areas were searched, zones 1 to 6, but in particular, that area where Nora was eventually found was searched in some detail on day 7, on the 7th, so day 4 of Nora having gone missing. And then if I can now refer to the 8th, so day 5 of the search. Again, that area was searched, and we heard evidence from an Inspector Horming Jai that he, in fact, had a much more detailed search on that particular day. There were 69 villagers and 10 to 15 search and rescue people in that area on day 5 of the search. And then the 9th of August, so day 6 of the search, again, that area was searched in some depth, a 1 kilometer square. So now so that would have been day 6 of the search that a detailed investigation was done of that area. And we know from your report and from the Malaysian pathologist's report, would you agree that the most likely day in terms of pinpointing the death, and I know that there's obviously some difficulties in doing that precisely, but based on the fact that the maggots that were recovered from Nora's body on the 14th of August were at least 4 days old, can we say that she was most probably deceased by the 10th of August?
On or around the 10th of August, that does depend on the entomology. I am assuming in terms of the entomology that the moment a body died, it would be vulnerable to infestation by flies. Given the warm temperatures, that would be a reasonable assumption. The development of maggots is temperature dependent, and it's actually quite difficult to reproduce exactly the conditions that would have prevailed over the course of those 4 days. So it's a fairly rough estimate. You can model it by putting temperature probes in at various points in time and trying to simulate the conditions that prevail, but that would be very difficult in these circumstances.
Yes.
But I mean, the bottom line is I do agree about 4 days.
Which would put us then at the 10th of August.
Yes.
So that would be 1 day following the search on the 9th.
Yes.
So, Doctor, just to then ask your assistance in respect of this. So if she wasn't there within zone 6, or indeed within zone 5 on the 9th, from looking at the map, she would have had to walk to get to that point where she was found, something like 1 kilometre.
That would have been the case, yes.
Across difficult terrain.
Yes.
So in the jungle, in the heat, with no shoes and no clothing.
Yes, it was apparent, having seen the post-mortem photographs taken in Malaysia, it's apparent that she had multiple superficial injuries to her skin surface, which were no longer so apparent at my examination. And that would be consistent with making her way through dense undergrowth.
But in this instance, Doctor, this is a young woman who now, so if we take the fact that she wasn't there on the 9th of August, but she potentially was there on the 10th, by that point, she's been alone in the jungle for quite some time. We know she died of starvation, so she would be extremely weak by that point. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean, her principal cause of death was actually bleeding, internal bleeding as a result of starvation and stress. I mean, ulcers of the gastrointestinal system are a manifestation of stress. And it's not hard to imagine that she would have been incredibly stressed. Anybody would be in these circumstances.
I'm just trying to understand how much would she have been moving then in the potentially the hours leading up to her death. We know from evidence from her mother and from her head teacher, she tired very easily. She was quite physically vulnerable. Can you help us with the sort of condition that she would likely have been in at that stage?
Well, in her final few hours, she'd have been very weak and poorly indeed because of blood loss. I mean, the difficulty with all of this is that you have to make the assumption that the search was sufficiently thorough not to have missed her. I can tell you, having been involved in looking for bodies, it can be very easy to overlook a body in undergrowth. And so I don't think one can necessarily assume that she wasn't there earlier. It's just that she may have been overlooked. That's no criticism of the people searching, because if you're talking about a square kilometre of dense jungle, it could be easy to overlook a small, slim child.
Understood, Doctor. We will have to refer to the evidence in respect of that. And we do know on the 8th of August that one particular officer actually went down to that precise point where Nora was later found. So we do know that somebody actually physically set foot in precisely that location. But
yes,
thank you.
A very helpful bit of evidence, yes.
Yeah. But you've been very helpful. She would clearly have been very weak by that point.
Yes.
I
mean, obviously, my main concern was that the body had been placed there.
Yes.
That would be always a concern in any of these sort of investigations. And so if the body was placed there by another or others, then that would readily explain why she wasn't there earlier.
Yes, and that's something that we couldn't exclude. Would that be right?
That'd be right, yes.
Yes. That she was, in fact, she may have been placed there by a third party.
Yes, although you'd have to allow for the fact that she appears to have been under her own movement for a significant period of time to get all those surface injuries on the skin.
She's clearly moved in the jungle to a certain extent.
Yes.
But if I was to suggest this, that perhaps the findings on the body are not consistent with her moving for a full 7 days within the jungle.
I mean, I did consider that. I thought that's a very difficult area. I mean, obviously, if she's not clothed, she's not protected at all from what must be quite sharp vegetation of one sort or another. On the other hand, I saw a lot of superficial injuries in the Malaysian post-mortem photographs.
But I mean, just to, I don't know if you also managed to see any pictures of the kind of terrain that she would have been facing in Malaysia.
Yes, I did. And it's fairly dense undergrowth in places.
And the marks to the feet were superficial, I think all apart from one which penetrated the surface of the skin, but in general, superficial marks only on the feet.
Yeah, I mean, they were sufficiently deep through the very thick layer of skin to still be present at my examination when the skin had decomposed. So they weren't trivial. And obviously, if you're walking or attempting to walk through something that's quite sharp and abrasive, you'll tread quite carefully because it hurts.
And one other thing that we know about Nora is that she had significant problems with her balance. Her mum gave evidence. Quoirin said she struggled with balance and coordination, and she'd very often stumble or fall if she was in an area that was not flat or straight. And it was supported by her head teacher, who said she's fearful of falling because she's has got problems with her balance. There was no evidence, as I see it from your report, that this young woman suffered any serious fall, no extensive bruising or fractured ribs or fractured wrist.
That's right. Which, I mean, a lack of bony injury suggests that she's not had any major force applied to her by whatever means, whether it be through falling or some other means, and likewise for lack of bruises.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carey. Got no further questions for you, but please wait there. Some of the other counsel may have.
All right, thank you, Luis. Okay, before we go to Mr. Alif, I have a few questions. Okay, we go back to the basic question, Dr. Carey. Okay, we go back to the basic questions. Maybe you can explain to us in the layman terms about the role of forensic pathologists.
Yes, of course. So a forensic pathologist compared to perhaps a routine pathologist who would look at biopsy samples, operative specimen, a forensic pathologist is primarily there to carry out post-mortem examinations and then give expert opinion on any conclusions. Now, importantly, that expert opinion may need to take account of findings at the scene of discovery, the findings as a result of other tests, and it's really the forensic pathologist who brings the whole case together to try and reach conclusions. Of course, it may not be possible to reach conclusions in some cases. So the forensic pathologist is entitled to really look at all the evidence that may be relevant.
Okay, so based on your explanation, so in order to ensure that you have a comprehensive expert opinion, okay, with regard to a body, okay, to the cause of death of a person. So what are the factors that contributed to that comprehensiveness?
I mean, I think in this particular case, the case is disadvantaged from the outset because of decomposition, because of the length of time, well, both from disappearance to discovery, but then clearly from death to discovery. And that is very difficult. And I've been involved in a number of cases that have involved deaths of children, which are overtly suspicious. Okay, not marginal, but where it's very clear that there are suspicions of third-party involvement, and you are really disadvantaged by decomposition. Okay. It's very much easier to apply forensic scientific techniques to a body that's fresh.
So that degree of decomposition is the main reason why you state in your report that from the point of view of this examination, the cause of death is uncertain.
Yes, exactly.
It's okay. All right. So,
But I think, sorry, forgive me. I think the two elements, the cause of death here, to me, is quite straightforward. She's got stress ulceration and bled. Okay, so the cause of death, I don't think it's controversial, and I agree with the meticulous examination that's clearly been carried out. The difficulty here is in what circumstances has death occurred, and that's the problem, not the cause, but the circumstances.
okay, so did you get any further information or any historical background other than the one you stated in the report about Nora, about about the disease from the family?
No, I didn't, but I have some familiarity with the brain problem that she had, and it can be quite variable how much problem it causes. And so it is very relevant what the family had to say about how it actually affected her, and also friends and teachers, because even if the body had been fresh, it wouldn't have been possible to tell how disabled she would have been by her brain problem.
So there was no interview done with the family, all right?
No,
Okay.
I was actually, as I stated at the beginning, I was actually the coroner's pathologist rather than a family pathologist. But obviously, my duty is to your court and to everybody, really.
Okay, understand. Okay, so am I right to say that apart from that you view the body in order to ascertain the cause of death, in order to make sure that you have this comprehensive report, that you need to go to the scene, you have to do the scene visit in order to get the idea and to support your finding?
I mean, I've seen some good photographs of the scene, and I'm happy that those who did visit the scene, I saw descriptions, and obviously I got an idea that was effectively second-hand from others. But clearly I didn't see the scene myself, although nowadays it would be less common to visit the scene.
So your answers to counsel for the family, the question put forth by the family counsel is based on your general knowledge and general idea about that particular question, that particular issue that put to you. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. I think that's yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Okay, Mr. Alif, over you.
Thank you, Puan. Okay, Dr. Carey, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Right. Okay, Dr. Carey. I'm the counsel representing the resort. I just have a few questions in respect of your report. I just want to ask you whether, based on your reading of the Malaysian pathologist report, is there any reason for you to disagree with the findings made in the Malaysian pathologist report?
No, I obviously, in the course of my career, I've seen a lot of repatriated bodies, and I would say that in this particular case, there'd been a very thorough pathological examination. It was very reassuring to see there'd been extensive subcutaneous dissection, looking for bruising, and extensive examination of relevant features such as the head, the facial structures, and the neck structures. So I see no reason to dispute the findings, although, like me, the Malaysian pathologists were clearly disadvantaged by decomposition.
Understood. And in respect of your report talking about the scratches, the superficial wounds on her body, and you said that even when you were inspecting it, so some of the cuts were still quite deep, the wound was still quite deep. Is that so?
Yeah, in relation to the feet, where the skin is very thick compared to, say, the forearms, there were still residual scratches, although the upper layers of the skin had come off as a result of further decomposition.
Right. And this, based on your report, it seems to be consistent with her walking through dense undergrowth, the yes. Positioning of the wounds and all that. Right. Okay. And also, in respect of your conclusion at point number 5, this is consistent with the Malaysian pathologist report, right? In respect of there's no positive findings of sexual assault.
That's correct. And again, I felt that the examination had been thorough. There was a detailed description.
Right. Okay, that is all. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alif. Any additional question from Tuan Ahmad Sazali?
Yeah, Puan. There's one or two questions. Dr. Kerry, on the issue of sexual assault, you said in your report, in your statement, that external genitalia around the labia majora and distribution normal, subcutaneous fat, and no evidence of any injury. You further said that the labia minora and the intraocular are decomposing and maggot infested. However, the vagina is present, attached to the uterus, and shows no abnormality.
Yes.
Okay, if there is a sexual assault against Nora, can you find, is it possible for you to find any abnormality? Will you be able to find any abnormality on the parts, on the body parts?
I mean, I think based on the analysis that were carried out in Malaysia and my own examination, I think we could exclude very serious trauma to the genitalia. I think what I was asked by counsel for the family was about, lesser degrees of trauma, and I wouldn't be able to exclude minimal trauma because of the decomposition obscuring things. So that's how it stands in my mind.
And that's on the issue of where the body of Nora was found. Is it true that you do not have any personal knowledge? Do you agree that you do not have any personal knowledge of whether she was placed there or she fell herself?
That's true. That's entirely true.
My next question on whether how many days the Nora can withstand in the elements of the forest. Do you agree that whatever you said just now is just a matter of your opinion on how many days she can survive and withstand with the surrounding forest around? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, what I do know is that the ulcers in her duodenum would not have developed in minutes, not have developed in hours, but would have taken days to develop. And that's a positive piece of scientific evidence we have there. And so to me, that means that she was significantly stressed for some days. And that would be consistent with elements of that history. But over and above that, it's very hard to know how long she was walking through the jungle and when she collapsed. And the evidence around searches is highly relevant to when she did or did not collapse. And if an area had been searched and she wasn't there, and then she was subsequently, that speaks for itself.
You agree with the cause of death described by nation pathologists, right?
Well, it's reasonably argued. The problem is I couldn't confirm it because I didn't see microscope sections of the duodenum myself. But yes, it seems sensible, and it's the sort of thing that might happen in these circumstances. Yeah,
but although you said that the cause of death is unascertained, but if there was an element of foul play, will you be able to find it on the body of on the body of Nora N when you examine the body?
Many types of foul play would be apparent, and in any case, it seems to me that the overriding cause of death is that discovered in Malaysia, which is the perforated duodenal ulcers and the bleeding. We haven't got a traumatic third-party type cause of death.
I mean, if there is a physical assault or defensive wound,
my examination was very limited by the post-mortem interval and the decomposition. Obviously, the first pathologists were in a much better place to give an opinion on that. And I think they had, from my point of view, as I've said, they'd carried out a thorough analysis with that sort of thing in mind. So they had dissected the inner upper arms, and the forearms, which would be areas that be vulnerable to pressure type bruising, fingertip bruising, if she had been gripped.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. That's all from me.
Thank you.
Itu saja Puan soalan daripada saya.
Any other additional question for Louis? No? Sakti, Mr. Saktivel? Where is Mr. Saktivel? No. Okay, Alif? No. All right. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Carey. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Coroner.
Okay, witness dilepaskan dan dibebaskan, discharge and acquitted. Alright. Okay, boleh. Okay, so sebelum tu tadi kita lupa nak tanda yang statement of witness tu kita tanda sebagai IP, EI 75. Okay, EI 75. EI 75. Okay, so untuk next witnesses, kita akan bermula balik pada 7 of December. Okay, so please correct me, Tuan